Hello and welcome to this updated video guide for completing Thok ast Thok in Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers. My name is TSDS and in this video you'll learn everything you need to know to kill General Grievous. Now this is actually a pretty challenging encounter with a lot of hard-hitting mechanics to watch out for, so let's break it down. As the main tank, pull the boss and face him away from the group, as no one else should stand in front of him. Main tanks have it pretty easy here for once, as a lot of the boss's time is spent casting slaughter attacks. However, you will still need to avoid stuff. As the Offtank, just pretend you're a DPS, though you will have your time to shine later in the fight. For both tanks and any physical DPS, do watch out for a fast cast called the Seeing Wing or the Seeing Tail. This is a 5 or so second buff to Ravana that causes him to counterattack any physical damage from specific directions. You can also spot this by the shield effects that appear on him. Generally this is quite minor, but just stop attacking him until the buff wears off. Now then, the crux of the fight revolves around the boss casting 3 different slaughter attacks: Prelude to Slaughter, Slaughter and Swift Slaughter. These are basically just different combinations of chained AOEs. Each slaughter takes a long time to cast, and anytime Ravana is casting one, he will hold his weapons out to the sides. Everyone, even the tanks, can move around to his back. Once cast, Ravana will hit and knock back anyone to his sides and or front, depending on the slaughter. As long as you're not standing too close to his back, you should avoid this. He will then vanish and you'll have some AOEs to avoid. For Prelude to Slaughter, which is used at the start, he hit at his sides. Then there will be a lot of overlapping line AOEs, so you'll need to find a safe spot. Immediately after this, there will be another AOE where the only safe spot is in the middle of the room. For regular slaughter, he'll hit at his sides and front. Then there will be an X-shape AOE on the floor and 2 players will get marked. The marked players should split up and anyone not marked will want to avoid the ones who are. First, the X AOE will explode, leaving fire on the ground for a short time, burning anyone who runs on it. Then, shortly afterwards, the marked players will explode, dealing AOE around them. If you're not marked, you have just enough time between the X-shape and marked AOEs to run over the fire to a safer area. However, if the marked player hugs the wall, there is also just enough space next to the centre of the X to avoid this hit. I'll talk about Swift Slaughter later. At about 60% health, the boss will summon a lot of butterfly adds. This is the wipe mechanic, so listen up. These butterflies will come in 3 waves and comprise of spirit gunners and occasionally moon gunners. They are the exact same, except moon gunners have a lot more HP. You must kill these as quickly as possible. At some point they will each try casting Falling Laughter. If successful, or you are just too slow in killing all of them, they will summon a sword onto the arena. When the adds are dealt with, or you were too slow, the boss will cast Bloody Fuller, launching everyone into the air. At this point he will smack everyone for each sword that got summoned and finish off with a large hit at the end. Expect 1 or 2 deaths at 2 swords and a wipe at 3 or more. I wiped a number of times when recording this and it was generally the DPS being too slow on killing the adds that caused it. As the off-tank, be sure to help with the adds as well. If you managed no swords, the attack is far weaker. Now then, after this you may start noticing that some of the fences around the room have been destroyed. From this point onwards, keep an eye on your position. Any attack that can knock you back, like the slaughters, can and will punt you off the arena to your death. We've now reached the part of the video where the off-tank gets to do something. After the wipe mechanic, Ravana will cast Pillars of Heaven, which is an AOE centered on himself. This hits the room and punts everyone. You can reduce your damage taken by moving further away from the boss, but your priority is to make sure you don't fly off the arena. After this, the off-tank will get this red clock type indicator above them and will get a lot of shit thrown their way, including an avoidable line AOE. Everyone else should move away from the off-tank, and as the off-tank you can also use some defensive cooldowns. The damage isn't a lot, but this is the only time you'll definitely be taking damage. This stream of attacks pretty much goes on until the boss gets bored and uses the 3rd type of slaughter, Swift. In addition, when the off-tank is getting rammed, 3 magic balls will spawn. They will create a line between themselves and a randomly chosen non-main tank and start moving towards the linked player. If you get targeted, just kite the ball around until it explodes, preferably not in your face. After all of this, it's time to talk about Swift Slaughter, as the boss will now start using this move as well as the others. With this, there won't be an initial attack at the front or sides to worry about. However, instead, 4 players will get marked with these blue sword icons above their heads. When this cast goes off, he will attack each of the 4 players in turn. Basically, everyone should imagine this as 4 wide line AOEs that start in the centre of the room and target the 4 players. This means if you're targeted, draw a fat line in your head between the centre of the room and your direction. Then move to make sure no other players are in this line. If you're not targeted, make sure you don't stand in front, behind or right next to any targeted player from the centre of the room. Also, don't stand in the centre of the room either, because you'll eat every attack. Once all 4 players have been hit, there will be another AOE with the safe spot in the middle of the room. Following this, Ravana will return to the centre of the room and cast another AOE around him. This last attack will send players flying, so avoid it, and if you can't avoid it, then make sure you're positioned to hit one of the remaining fences. Finally, one last thing to mention is that a lot of Ravana's avoidable attacks will apply a stack of vulnerability. This means if you can't avoid things, you will be taking bigger and bigger hits. Now then, there are a lot of things to remember here, but as long as you're quick at avoiding AOEs, remember to position yourself to avoid falling with style, and kill those f***ing butterflies for f***'s sake, Carl! You'll be okay. However, I would actually recommend watching this video a second time to try and soak it all in, as it does seem like a lot of players do not fully understand this fight, as deaths and wipes were pretty common from what I saw. As a healer, assume people will be taking hits on each slaughter, so get ready with the AOE heals. And that's Thok ast Thok hard. It can be quite tricky, but with a solid understanding of the fight, you should be okay. If you enjoyed the guide, then let me know, and if there are any other guides or perspectives you'd like to see, then check out my channel or feel free to ask me to create one. Thank you for watching, and good luck.